In the first scene, a tense atmosphere fills the office of the Tang Fei Company. An older executive, dressed in a formal gray suit and blue tie, sits behind his desk with a look of utter indignation. He points a sharp, accusing finger toward the doorway, where a mysterious young man has just appeared. The executive shouts in a defensive rage, telling the stranger to get out, and boasting that his company is renowned for its high quality and unparalleled productivity. The young man stands calmly in the threshold, arms crossed, seemingly unimpressed by the executive's bluster. The focus shifts to a close-up of the young man, revealing a sharp, handsome face framed by dark purple hair. A confident, almost predatory smirk plays on his lips as his violet eyes lock onto the executive. He repeats the words, "high productivity," with heavy sarcasm. He mocks the company's claims, pointing out the absurdity of a small advertising project taking several days to complete. To him, the special productivity the executive brags about is nothing more than a sign of incompetence. The tension escalates as the executive loses his cool entirely. He stands between the young man and a young woman with long pink hair, who looks on with a mixture of shock and curiosity. The executive's face is contorted with anger as he barks out a vulgar demand to know who this stranger is and why he is talking nonsense. While the older man is fuming, the young man remains stoic, looking down at the executive with cold, calculated indifference. The scene cuts to a tighter shot of the trio. The pink-haired woman is visibly distressed, clutching her hands to her chest. She expresses her deep concern, fearing that if she leaves to find another company now, they will run out of time for the project. Amidst her worry, the young man's voice cuts through the panic. With absolute certainty, he makes a bold declaration. Just one day, everything will be done. His confidence stands in stark contrast to the executive's frustration and the woman's desperation. In the final frame, the narrative takes a subtle, suspenseful turn. The camera focuses on the young man's hand as he reaches into his trouser pocket. He is seen pulling out a sleek black smartphone. This silent gesture suggests he is about to take action, perhaps to make a call or reveal evidence that will back up his ambitious claim and likely change the fate of the Tang Fei Company in a single afternoon. With the smartphone pressed to his ear, the young man's expression remains cold and unwavering. He ignores the chaos around him and speaks a single, chilling command into the receiver. "Bring the boss of Tang Fei Company here in half an hour." Beside him, the pink-haired woman watches in stunned silence, her eyes wide as she realizes this stranger possesses a level of power that far exceeds anyone in the room. Amidst the verbal warfare, a subtle moment of connection occurs. The young man reaches out and firmly grasps the woman's hand, leading her with a sense of protective calm. This small but significant gesture signals that she is now under his protection, and despite the uncertainty of the situation, he is taking full control of her predicament. The executive, now back in his chair but still seething with disbelief, attempts to call the young man's bluff. He scoffs at the phone call, claiming that their boss is away on vacation and is far too important to meet someone so insignificant. He doubles down on his hostility, flatly refusing to accept the woman's order and sneeringly suggesting they find another company to do their business. Refusing to be intimidated or driven out, the young man pulls the woman down to sit beside him on a nearby sofa. They wait in a heavy, expectant silence. The young man sits with a relaxed but commanding posture, his eyes closed, as if he is merely waiting for the inevitable. The woman sits close to him, looking towards the executive with a mixture of apprehension and budding hope, while the word "not look" hangs in the air, emphasizing their total disregard for the executive's presence. Unable to handle being ignored in his own domain, the executive erupts in a final frantic display of authority. He lunges forward, his face flushed with rage as he screams at the top of his lungs. He calls the young man a damn kid and demands to know if he is deaf, violently asserting that this is his office and that they are absolutely not welcome. The background blurs into streaks of motion, reflecting his spiraling loss of control as the 30-minute deadline looms. Tension snaps into physical action as a hand slams down onto the polished surface of the desk with a resonant bop. The force of the impact is captured in the sharp motion lines vibrating through the wood. It is a gesture of dominance intended to silence any opposition, signaling that the time for polite conversation has ended and the moment of enforced reality has begun. The atmosphere in the room turns frostbound as the dark-haired man gazes forward with a chilling, impenetrable expression. His eyes, sharp and unforgiving, are partially veiled by a dark shadow, emphasizing his mounting displeasure. Underneath the bold crimson text that screams coldly, his voice likely drops to a lethal whisper, projecting an aura of absolute authority and disdain that leaves no room for negotiation. The focus shifts to the man's chest, where his expensive blazer and casual yet refined attire mark him as a person of significant status. He speaks with a calm, terrifying confidence, his words captured in a stark bubble. There's the contract here. It's not your turn to say you want to get it or not. He isn't asking for permission. He is stating an irrevocable fact, reminding his opponents that they are bound by the ink on the page. On the receiving end of this intimidation, an older man in a formal suit stands paralyzed. His face is a mask of shock and indignation, sweat beading on his forehead as he stammers out a single, breathless word, "You." He is caught between outrage and the sudden, crushing realization that he has been outmaneuvered by a younger, more ruthless lion. The scene settles into a deceptive, quiet intimacy. The dark-haired man leans back, a lit cigarette held between his fingers, while a pink-haired woman stands closely beside him, lighting it with a steady hand. Despite the closeness, there is a lingering melancholy or coldness in the air. His gaze is downward, distant and brooding, while she remains a silent, dutiful shadow at his side, the calm after a social storm. The scene opens with a young woman, her hair tied in playful pigtails and wearing a casual graphic tee, watching the unfolding events with a mix of confusion and awe. Her internal monologue reveals her fascination. Mr. Bei Ming's movements are very natural and smooth, feeling like he has done this job a lot of times. Despite her puzzled expression, indicated by the question marks floating near her head, she recognizes the practiced grace of a man who is no stranger to high-stakes power plays. Mr. Bei Ming himself exudes an air of detached arrogance as he takes a long draw from his cigarette. Wisps of white smoke curl around his sharp features and purple-tinted hair, framing a gaze that is calm yet piercing. He carries himself with the quiet confidence of someone who has already won the game, even as those around him struggle to keep up with his pace. Across from him, the older executive begrudgingly takes his seat, his face contorted with a mixture of irritation and suppressed rage. As he settles down under the command, "Sit down," his thoughts are venomous. This damn kid obviously wants to show his brave in front of those women. He convinces himself that he is merely humoring the younger man for now, thinking, fine, I'll bear him for a while if the boss doesn't show up to see how he'll say it. The camera focuses on a sleek, minimalist black clock mounted on a marble-textured wall. The hands mark the passage of time, heightening the suspense in the silent room. Every second that ticks by is a heavy reminder that a deadline is approaching, or that someone of great importance, the boss mentioned by the executive, is expected to arrive at any moment.
Suddenly, the silence is shattered by the sound of rapid, heavy footsteps. The focus shifts to a pair of black dress shoes moving at a frantic pace across the floor, accompanied by the bold red sound effect, rush. The blurred motion lines suggest an urgent arrival, indicating that the power dynamic in the room is about to be shifted once again by someone entering in a great hurry. The scene opens with a tense atmosphere in a corporate office. A man in a blue blazer, appearing disheveled and frantic, bursts through the door with an "open" sound effect echoing behind him. He points aggressively at someone off-screen, his face twisted in a sneer of false bravado. He taunts a kid, thinking he has the upper hand, mockingly telling them not to think that bringing a stranger for help will scare him. He believes he is the one in control, unaware of the storm brewing just inside the room. As the man steps further into the room, he freezes. The focus shifts to a middle-aged executive with slicked-back hair and a thin mustache. The executive's face is a mask of pure, unadulterated terror. Against a background of jagged, blue psychological shock lines, he stammers uncontrollably. His eyes are wide with disbelief as he realizes who is sitting on his sofa. "Boss, why do you come back here?" he asks, his voice trembling as his world begins to crumble. The perspective widens to reveal the source of the executive's fear. Sitting calmly on the white leather sofa is a young, striking man with dark purple hair and piercing eyes. He sits with an air of absolute authority, one arm draped protectively behind a pink-haired girl who is focused on a book. The boss is the picture of cool composure, a sharp contrast to the panicked men standing before him. The office, once a place of safety for the underlings, has now become a seat of judgment. The bravado from the first scene has completely vanished. Both the man in the blue blazer and the mustached executive are now doubled over in deep, submissive bows. Their faces are beaded with sweat, and their expressions are filled with regret. The executive pleaded desperately, claiming he had no idea that Mr. Bei Ming was visiting the company. He apologizes profusely for his failure to welcome him properly, his earlier arrogance replaced by a desperate need for forgiveness. Above them, the word "amazing" hangs in the air, highlighting the sheer absurdity of their sudden shift in attitude. The final scene focuses on the enigmatic Mr. Bei Ming. He looks toward the girl beside him, his expression softening slightly but remaining firm. He doesn't even spare a glance for the men groveling at his feet. Instead, he focuses on the business at hand, asking the girl how she wants to handle the advertising. "Just tell him straight," he says, signaling that the games are over. He has the power to decide their fate with a single word, and the room remains silent, waiting for the final verdict. The desperate plea for service. The man in the blue blazer, his earlier arrogance completely extinguished, now leans forward with an expression of anxious eagerness. A bead of sweat rolls down his temple as he tries to salvage his position by offering his absolute devotion to the young lady. His hands are raised in a placating gesture, his voice a frantic pitch of forced politeness as he begs her to tell him exactly how she wants the advertising handled. He offers a hollow guarantee of total satisfaction, his eyes searching hers for even the slightest hint of forgiveness. The lady's assertive response. Rather than being intimidated by the sudden shift in atmosphere, the pink-haired lady stands tall, radiating a newfound confidence. She points a firm finger toward Director Ye, her expression calm and composed. She clearly states that all her requests have already been relayed and that the crucial blueprints are already in his possession. Internally, she marvels at the scene before her. She hadn't expected the stoic Bei Ming Ye to be so remarkably cool and authoritative this time, an act that has made her feel unexpectedly comfortable and protected. Confirming the order.
The focus shifts to the two men, who now look small and vulnerable under the weight of the instructions. The executive with the mustache looks down, his face a mask of worry and submission. Beside him, the man in the blue blazer quickly affirms his understanding, his voice a series of rapid-fire yeses as he clutches the blueprints. He repeats that everything is in his hands and that he has fully grasped the gravity of the task. The final directive. The scene concludes with a heavy, unspoken pressure hanging over the two subordinates. As they stand side by side, still visibly shaken and perspiring, a final sharp question cuts through the air. Did you clear what you should do? It is a chilling reminder that there is no room for error. Their earlier mistakes have placed them on a razor's edge, and their only path forward is to execute the lady's blueprint with absolute perfection.